right, NAIA football fans, welcome back to the NAIAFBALL show. I'm your host today, Matt, and joined below me is the wonderful picture of Corey that we saw for a few weeks a while ago. He is en route to, where are you heading again?
Going up to campus, gotta pay a visit to where I actually am supposed to work every now and then.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's always a good thing to do. So Corey is joining us, I guess, more mobile than usual today. So he is
That's true.
not on the camera. But we are still going to talk about some NAIA football today. We had a really entertaining second round of games in the playoff. I feel like it did live up to the hype that we set for a lot of them. Now, granted, there were a couple matchups that were not so close by the end of the game, but I still feel like the ones that we got that were close were really exciting. But before we get started, as always, we want to shout out UEN, Urban Edge Network, which we also recommend you guys watch on. We are live on YouTube and on Urban Edge Network every single week. And with football playoffs especially, they are doing everything they can to get streams accessible. They streamed, 6 of the 8 games this past weekend.
Yep.
So they're doing a fantastic job, doing some awesome things for NAI football, making it accessible. We cannot thank them enough for their partnership. So, yeah, I had a good time watching these broadcasts this weekend. I know for Dakota Wesleyan and my real life job, we had a lax Thanksgiving break, so I got to actually sit down and kind of just hang out and watch all of the games live. Didn't have to do much catching up, so it was a good time. Corey, what do you think of this weekend?
There were no games where it was iffy. It was either a blowout or it was an absolute fantastic tight game. There were no just games. It was exciting either way.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it. Probably, one of the lesser exciting matchups here on the docket from the past weekend was Kaiser taking care of Southeastern 44-16. Obviously, Southeastern not quite as close as the first time they had played. It does seem to be a trend in football for the most part that the second time you play a team, I feel like the team who won the first time wins the second time. I know they say it's hard to win twice in a row, but I feel like in college football especially, we see that a lot. And this was certainly the case there. Shea Spencer looking as good as ever, going 27 for 33, 307 yards and 4 touchdowns, while Jaden Miller on the ground going 14 for 109 and 2 touchdowns, and getting 6 touchdowns and a field goal and 7 trips to the red zone is certainly efficient enough to get it done. Southeastern, on the flip side, not quite the performance they would have liked to see for their team and how their season went out. But they did fight for the first bit of the game there. It's just Kaiser was that dominant by the end of the contest. What do you see, Corey? I think did we lose Corey? Or is he muted? Oh, he is muted.
I'm here. I had to save my phone. Had a little rough patch.
Okay.
There are teams like Kaiser, like Grandview, that have just seemed to find another gear in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And just putting it all together. I mean, you see the quarterback numbers there for Southeastern. You had Nate Michaels, who didn't even make it through the game, who was also about 500 passing, but with 2 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Southeastern had absolutely zero answer offensively for Kaiser's defense, which we had seen in the regular season. Sometimes Kaiser's defense could be a little sus.
Mm-hmm. There,
but not in this game. They just absolutely shut Southeastern down every way to Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really impressive effort from Kaiser, and I feel like they just are rising even further to the occasion, like you had mentioned. And another team that I feel like, especially with a certain returning National Player of the Year on their roster, also rose to the occasion as Grandview takes down St. Francis 62 to 20. Jackson Waring going 14 for 19 through the air for 247 and 5 touchdowns. And Grandview's offense, we talk about their defense a lot, and their offense is obviously very good too. But 7 touchdowns and 7 trips is just perfect efficiency. And I understand seeding wise, this is a 1 versus a 16 matchup. But certainly in the playoffs, you feel like even at that point, 62-20 is still pretty ridiculous output for this stage in the season.
I mean, we said all year, just in the polls and everything, that there was different levels. We had our 1 through 40 leagues. We had kind of our middle 10 there as extremely good, and then we had the last about 5, and then the 5 to 10 receiving votes that were iffy.
Mm-hmm.
This proves that we might have been onto something.
Yeah.
Grandview again just has stepped it up in the playoffs. I mean, Bryant Williams, that's 20 yards a carry. My guy was a absolute walking explosive play. And this all to say, Jaya Dandridge for St. Francis had 227 yards on the other side. That is, what, 2/3 of Kolka's yards went to Dandridge?
Over 2/3, like just slightly, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And you still lose by 42 points.
Yeah. Just absolute insanity. And you see it there too, only going 6 for 17 on 3rd and 4th down when Granby was able to limit the big play, because it feels like that's kind of what USF was able to put points on the board with. Those late downs weren't looking so hot for St. Francis. So they, had a great season, but sometimes you just run into the buzzsaw, unfortunately. That's the way it goes with the playoffs. And Grandview is the buzzsaw. I have no reason to believe otherwise that this team won't just repeat, truthfully. Especially when you're putting out performances like this in the top 16. So, just wild stuff. But another game that was certainly of interest this weekend was Benedictine versus Campbellsville. This one, really interestingly, Campbellsville was actually controlling this game through the first half. It was, 17-7 at halftime? 17-3, something like that. Campbellsville was firmly in control of this game, and they looked really good. Trey Bass had a really good day on the ground, and obviously in the receiving game as well was still a bit of a factor there. But Jet Engel going 10 for 24 for 98 yards and 2 interceptions without any touchdowns. Certainly not what you would like, but even then for Benedictine, they kind of had to claw back because, on the other side, both these defenses were playing so well that Jackson Dooley also played pretty human compared to what we've seen from him recently, going 8 for 19 for 95 yards and an interception of his own. Dalton Witherspoon and Trey Bass were really just trading punches this whole game, and which defense was going to, find an opening first with the way these run games were going. Obviously, it's a very chunk it out style of football, so it's a lower scoring game. Like, it definitely reflects how the pace of the game went. But this was a really fun one to see Benedictine kind of claw back, especially with how they looked in the first half. Not that they played super bad, but Campbellsville was just on fire for most of it. Not to mention also a pick 6 for Campbellsville in the first half is what really gets the momentum there.
You'll look at the box score and you notice that it was 37 degrees with snow showers, especially in the second half, and winds of 13 miles an hour. That does make it very difficult to win ball games through the air. And that's what we're going to see, especially in the Kansas, Missouri, your Iowas. You're going to see a lot of games like that. And it's going to be a question of who can run the ball better and who can play better as a team. On Saturday, it was Benedictine. Campbellsville ran the ball well, but 9 penalties for 88 yards when those margins are so fine is really, really going to be murder for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it ended up being what did him in, because you're giving up almost an entire football field length of yardage there. That's pretty much points. And it ended up being a 4-point game. So, if you don't commit even half of those, what does it look like? But also on the flip side, Benedictine only going 4 for 12 on third and fourth down. That's also another big number that played into certainly the first half of the contest. Obviously, Benedictine kind of got it rolling. They weren't in a lot of those late down situations later in the game, but it was just a slugfest. Like you said, with the weather, like we're going to see probably a couple more of these down the pipe, especially with Benedictine playing Friends coming up. That is going to be chef's kiss, wonderful. But not to get too ahead of ourselves, because we have some other fantastic games to talk about, which includes one of, I don't know, like this was such a weird game to follow, especially when Indiana Wesleyan takes a huge lead to start the game, and then right before halftime, Lindsey Wilson gets a touchdown and 2-point conversion on the board, and then Lindsey Wilson proceeds to score 7 touchdowns in a row every time they have the ball on their subsequent drives. Like, just the most absurd, drastic swing of momentum I've seen in a playoff game in a long time.
Sometimes you got to get punched in the mouth. And obviously, Lindsey Wilson with the week off last week, got a little bit of rust to shake off. And honestly, I think Lindsey showed the most rust out of anyone. However, you saw it a little bit with Benedictine Campbellsville, where Benedictine didn't play, and then a little bit. We'll get to it with Montana Tech and Carroll. There's a little bit of rust you've got to knock off as a team that had a bye. It's a double-edged sword getting that first round bye, and then playing a team who didn't get a first round bye. But credit Lindsey Wilson. They come back after getting punched in the mouth. They come back and absolutely start wailing on Indiana Wesleyan. And to Indiana Wesleyan's credit, they went 7 for 14 on third and fourth down conversions. They offensively were able to get it done most times, but 5 interceptions is really, really going to be killer. You lose by 26 points if you maybe only throw 2 interceptions or so. You might have a shot at this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just mistakes like that in the playoffs are absolutely killer, whether it be penalties like we saw in the last game, or whether it's interceptions, fumbles. We haven't seen too many of, but if you don't play a complete game, you're not pulling upsets this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something about this game that I was really intrigued by as well, Devontae Saunders was definitely a factor. I mean, he scored, 4 touchdowns? But the fact that they held him to under 100 yards rushing, I found really interesting. They were basically forcing Tate Rice to throw, just with, he was only averaging 4 yards a carry during the game. Which, with what we've seen with him, usually he's, pushing 5, 6. And, rushing for just 79. They challenged Lindsey Wilson to throw the ball, I feel like, a lot more than other teams have this year. And Tate Rice absolutely stepped up to the occasion. It's like, all right, if we have to, if you're going to make us pass, that's completely fine. We can get it done that way, too. I just found that super interesting from the final stat line there. So, really fun one here. Lindsey Wilson moves on after putting up, it wasn't 57 unanswered, but it was 40-something or 50. It was pretty insane run there for Lindsey Wilson to move on. And next up, we have Marion versus Dort. Now, this was a one-score game by the end of the contest, 100%. It was close at the end. Marion did control this game for about 3/4 of it. Would you say the same, Corey?
Yeah, and Marion had this one, and Dort just looked a little out of sorts. Obviously, you're missing your main signal caller in Colson Cruz. Obviously, we've seen Strickfaden get heavy playing time at many points during the year, but to not have Cruz available at all could be problematic. But you've got Keegan LaBelle on the other side making it happen from the running back spot, and I am very sure those numbers are probably not right. I apologize for that. But yeah, I mean, you look at it, Marion just able to out execute Dort by the end of the game. It's a one-score game, but Marion able to lock it down on defense and getting head coach Ted Karras' 100th win in collegiate football.
Yeah, big time. Keegan LaBelle's final stat line was 138 yards rushing for a touchdown for an average of 5.1 yards per carry. So definitely still a very efficient day for him. Tristan Polk, kind of interesting, going just 7 for 15 for 100 yards and a touchdown. This was another one. Like, snow was a factor, or winter weather in some capacity was a factor here. Definitely showed with how both teams played. You see Strick Faden, 3 picks is not going to help you out a whole lot. Marion just was up to the task, though. I think that home field advantage definitely gives you a bit of a boost as well. And they looked ready to go here. So this was a case of both teams having a bye. So they were kind of at equilibrium in that sense. So, kind of curious that we get that matchup sometimes here. But next up, we have Friends and William Penn, who honestly, this was a really fun game. Granted, it went about how we expected, with William Penn not quite being able to keep up with the output of Friends' offense, but it was certainly a very fun shootout. Both offenses came to play in this one. Destin Loring on the other side of Cavante Baker and Idirian Sykes was a super fun matchup to watch. And Sterling Ramsey throwing for 4 touchdowns is super impressive, especially with some of the up and down performances we've been seeing from him lately. It's good to see him, being able to, step into that big role as a big time passer when he needs to. Ultimately, though, you look at the time of possession for William Penn. They were scoring on more big plays, not necessarily sustaining long drives, and being outpaced by almost 10 minutes by Friends there. And Friends on the flip side of things, 3 touchdowns and a field goal on 5 trips in the red zone. They were also scoring on a lot of big plays. Don't get it twisted. Cavante Baker, final stat line of 15 attempts for 86 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 1 for 2, but that one completion was a 39-yard touchdown down the middle of the field on a gorgeous ball and a gorgeous catch on what was a very fun game that I feel like delivered in the offensive department, wouldn't you say, Corey?
Yeah, no, it absolutely did. It's a big-time game, and if you're going to beat Friends, you have to be able to keep them off the field a little bit. You have to be able to turn them over on offense. You have to be able to get them to punt, because they can't control the game tempo if they don't have the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's where William Penn just was not able to execute their game plan as much, because, well, they like to play the same kind of ball control offense, and they just weren't able to do so. Credit Friends with just sticking to their game. Again, we talk about the turnovers. Friends is just not turning the ball over, and that has been the most impressive thing for me. I don't know where the ceiling is for this Friends squad. It feels like they're better than last year, especially on defense.
Yes.
It feels like they are better than last year. And I kind of wonder if this is a Friends team that could really, you mentioned Grandview earlier, and you remember last year, Grandview got all they wanted from Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Could Friends maybe have a shot at knocking off the King?
Look, I put them number 1 in my poll for the last couple weeks for a reason. That's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying. They're certainly living up to the hype in that regard, because my goodness, what a performance for the Friends Falcons. Next up, Certainly no love lost in this one between Montana Tech and Carroll, longtime conference foes, and what was a really fun matchup. Montana Tech controlled the first portion of this game. Carroll comes roaring back with Quinn Stamps, backup quarterback, after Caden Watt goes out of the game after going 8 for 11 through the air. Quinn Stamps steps in and brings Carroll pretty much fully back into this one by the end of the contest. Unfortunately for them, a fumble, strip sack, recovery in the end zone for Montana Tech would ultimately push them to 31-21, which would end up being the final score. Really fun game across the board. It's hard not to get romantic about football when you watch a game like this between two heated rivals that just despise each other. It's absolutely wonderful that you get this on this big of a stage, especially when guys like Levi Torgerson are going, 6 catches for 124 yards, 3 touchdowns, and not to mention 1 through the air as well. So not a bad day at the office for Mr. Torgerson.
Yeah, that's not one you see very often, is it? He's got, I think I'll borrow our friends at Midwest Sports Net, his stat that puts him at more passing touchdowns than about 3 or 4 other teams in the entirety of the NAIA on the season. Darrell came to play, kept it close with Montana Tech. But, man, you've just got to be a little more efficient in the red zone. 1 touchdown in 4 trips is not going to get it done for you. So, again, we have this narrative of these top 4 teams being a cut and a half above the rest. I shouldn't be surprised when they're making it through, but I'm sort of surprised that we still have, at this point, we have a chalk postseason.
Mm-hmm.
There's heck, I'm even thinking back to last week. I don't know that we've had a single upset, and we've eliminated 12 teams.
Yeah, it's wild. It's been chalk so far, especially in a game like this, though. Like you mentioned, we thought it was a cut above the rest, but you see a result like this, it's like, well, on any given day, it can get this close. Especially when you have guys like Carson Ochoa on the other side for Carroll. 5 catches for 125 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I also should note Torgerson only caught 2 touchdowns. He had 3 in total, with 1 through the air. But yeah, ultimately the red zone offense is what gets it done for Montana Tech, and some late play heroics, some late game heroics from the Ore Diggers to get it done. In our last game on the list, College of Idaho and Morningside in a really intriguing one. My 2 incorrect picks for the week were the GPAC teams, so that loyalty has scorched me a bit this postseason. But College of Idaho looked really, 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 really good. Caden Young, the dual threat, going 10 for 20 through the air for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. 1 pick, but also you make up for that with over 100 yards on the ground as well. The defense absolutely came to play. That was the question for me going into this one. Is College of Idaho's defense going to be up to snuff like we think it is? And it absolutely was, with 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, an interception, and 9 pass breakups. Zach Chevalier going 27 for 45 for 276 and 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not a horrible day, but certainly not the high output we've seen from this Morningside offense at times. Drew Sellen also with a fantastic day, 11 receptions for 132 yards and a touchdown. He has put together quite the campaign this year as well, but only being 6 for 16 on 3rd and 4th down might be the indicator there that you have to be able to convert on those late downs, especially in a tight game like this one. College of Idaho does pull away, but it was pretty tense there for a little bit, so it's definitely a fun one to watch. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, the active hands of the College of Idaho defense with 9 pass breakups and interception are so very key. You look at the fact that Chevalier threw the ball 45 times. It took Sellen 11 catches to get to 132 yards. Usually, if you feed Drew's.
Oh, cut out. Gotta love the mobile connection.
By the College of Idaho defense to limit Sellen on his catches, on the amount of yards he got off catches, as well as to prevent the ball from getting there in the first place. College of Idaho is going to get the Frontier treatment again this week, and we'll see what we get with them, because that's a good squad.
Yeah, very good squad up there in Caldwell, Idaho. So now we're going to kind of move on to next week and what we got coming up. But before we do that, let's hear a word from our friends at AdCraft.
Sell custom merch for your team or business. That's exciting, but where do you begin? How much inventory should you order? How do you distribute orders? AdCraft has your answers. Streamline the way you offer custom merch by utilizing our risk-free web store service. We ship directly to each customer, and we have the fastest turnaround in the game. Raise funds for your team or get merch to your employees and patrons. Contact AdCraft today, and let's bring your merch to life.
And that's exactly what AdCraft can do for you. Longtime friends of the show, NAI born and bred, you definitely want to check them out, because ultimately they make your life that much easier with the services and quality they offer. You don't have to deal with the customer service. You don't have to deal with all that extra junk. Let AdCraft take care of that for you. Located in Iowa, the wonderful folks down there in Grandview country. We appreciate them a lot and what they contribute to the show here. So thank you, AdCraft. And we also have to give a shout out to our buddy Connor Darnell. Absolutely wonderful graphics, all of the cool stuff you see on the screen, on socials, the Player of the Week graphics. Everything just looks so good, and it is because of Connor. He can make bag tags for you. He can work on schedule posts. He's in the SID realm, so he knows how that stuff works and what to design for in that sense. So definitely hit him up for all of your design needs. So now we move on to our players of the week in what was there were a lot of standout performances this week that were interesting to note. But it felt like, especially on the offensive side, there were a lot of even kind of performances where it's multiple touchdowns and pushing 200 yards, like a lot around that realm. But ultimately this week, we go with the reigning National Player of the Year, Jackson Waring, who is absolutely wonderful, going 14 for 19, 247 yards and 5 touchdowns, like we talked about, in pending weather conditions. I don't know if we mentioned that they dealt with snow also. Did not matter whatsoever for the returning National Player of the Year. 5 touchdowns is always going to put you in consideration, and ultimately got it done in a very impressive win for Grandview. And on the defensive side of the ball, you get 4 interceptions if you're Caleb Bridges and 9 tackles. That'll certainly get it done, especially for a Lindsey Wilson team that had to claw back into that game a little bit in the second half. Certainly going to help when you have a guy like that flying around making all of those plays. Corey, any word on our players of the week here?
It was a tough one offensively. Like you mentioned, there were a lot of guys with good performances. But when you're going over 10 yards an attempt, 14 of 19 for 247 yards, that is huge. There, you're getting it done very efficiently, and that means an absolute ton. And even doing it in adverse weather conditions, where those guys were plowing snow and you couldn't see the lines 5 plays later. These weren't just little flurries. These were, honest to God, this was snow.
That's Iowa snow. That's Midwest Iowa snow right there.
Right. And to do that in that snow is absurd. But 4 interceptions is also just as absurd. And you don't even have to look any further after that. You see that and you go, yep, that'll do it right there.
Kind of wild. We got two players with 4 interceptions in the course of like what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's absurd. Just defensive players balling out this year, man. I guess it's but yeah, a lot of great performances. But Caleb Bridges and Jackson Waring just absolutely standing out among the rest for this week. So now we're gonna get to our play call of the week, which is presented by the Headset app. Because let's face it, football technology and headsets are too expensive. They kind of don't work. You're always missing stuff. They're really annoying to carry around, so why not just take out all of that and switch to the Headset app? Because, it's probably a lot easier to just put in some AirPods and connect to any of the private channels that they provide for you and your coaches, so you don't have to worry about, anybody stealing your signals or anything. No Michigan 2023 stuff going on here. Because the Headset app has got you covered, protected, and it's just that much easier to use. Right to your phone. It makes setup that much easier and less expensive, and it's so much easier. So why not? Why not make the switch into the modern age with the Headset app, who are presenting this week's play of the week. I did mention it earlier in the show, but I'll let you guys watch this, and I'll break it down a little bit afterwards. So the signal did take a second to come in there, but what you saw was the strip sack touchdown recovery for Montana Tech that ultimately put the game away at the end of the contest there. And I think what's super interesting is when you look at this pre-snap look, if it'll let me go back here, is that you notice that Montana Tech here is showing blitz. They come up to the line with 6 late. They're basically saying, hey, look, we know that it's your end of the field, or deep in your own end of the field. We know it's late in the game. You guys are getting hot. We're going to heat check you. We're going to send pressure. We're going to see if you can handle it. And this was called perfectly into a 5-man protection from Carroll, letting there be a free guy off the edge, ultimately leading to the play that you see there, the pop and the recovery there for the Ore Diggers to take a lead. Really pivotal point of the game. I couldn't help it. Sometimes when you get that aggressive on defense, just like, hey, let's go. Like, I don't care about your hot throw. We're sending pressure in your face. You have to be up to the challenge, and Carroll wasn't there. Obviously, just a really good play call all around. Wouldn't you say, Corey?
Fantastic call. I mean, you got to trust your DBs to be able to make that play and to lock it down.
Yep.
If you don't get there fast, it's going to be problematic.
Yep.
You got to trust your DBs to get there, but in much like any other part of life, you send numbers at something, good chance that you actually get what you want done. And that's exactly what happened with the call there from Kyle Sampson and Montana Tech.
Yeah, just absolutely wonderful stuff. But that is everything from this second round of the playoffs behind us. And now we get to look forward into the future, because that's what we do here. We can see the future. We can't. Corey might be able to. I certainly can't.
Yikes.
So, anyways, with that out of the way, we have our quarterfinals matchup set. Like we mentioned earlier, it is chalk, but due to travel, some of these seeds aren't lining up exactly like you think they would. But we do have some intriguing matchups coming up here. And the first one on the board, Grandview versus Lindsey Wilson. And what I'm really excited for this one, I have to admit. Going to be, metrics-wise, probably one of the best matchups we'll see all season. Especially with those overall SP pluses, the defense from Grandview against the offense of Lindsey Wilson. Especially with how Lindsey Wilson, wasn't able to feed Saunders like they would usually like to on the ground. Certainly they'll get him involved, but, is that going to be something Grandview's going to look at potentially here? And also Jackson Waring, Lindsey Wilson's defense isn't a slouch either, but you certainly have to contain and manage the returning National Player of the Year. Going to be a really exciting one. What are you trying to see in this one, Corey?
It is really interesting. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Lindsey's going to have a lot of confidence coming out of the Indiana Wesleyan game that even if you take away half of our offense and what we want to do, you're still going to be able to put up points. Now, this is going to be another one where weather can play a factor.
Oh, we lost Corey for a bit again. Weather can play a factor. It'll be in Iowa, which will.
It will be in Wi-Fi here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me pull off Wi-Fi here. It'd be nice if we could do that. Woo! But I think that Grandview defense is just so good. It's another step up from Indiana Wesleyan's, and if Lindsey can pull this upset, it will be huge. I just don't know that they're going to be able to do it with the amount of defensive tools that Grandview has. However, Lindsey might have enough defensive tools themselves to make this a really intriguing game to watch. And it's an early game as well. It's a 1 p.m. kick. This will be one to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, really intrigued by this matchup. I think just with Lindsey Wilson's also really good defense, I'm just super intrigued to see how this one ends up, because I think on paper, just like matchup to matchup, when you compare teams, like Lindsey Wilson is one of the top teams that can compete with a team like Grandview. So it'll be really interesting to see how that one plays out. The next one on the docket here, Kaiser, the 2 seed, taking on the 6 seed Marion down there in Florida. Obviously, Kaiser with a dominant performance against SEU last weekend, and Marion pretty convincingly for most of the game, taking down Dort. Going to be really fun to see these offenses go at it. Keegan LaBelle versus, what the entirety of what seems like a 4-deep running back room, and Shea Spencer, and all that stuff that we've come to know and love about the Kaiser football program. That's all there. Jaden Miller is definitely someone to watch out for in this one. Going to be fun to see the running backs go back and forth here, but Tristan Polk also somebody to watch. Don't let him fly under your radar, because he will certainly be a factor in this one as well, able to move a bit on the ground. But this is a really intriguing matchup to me. I don't necessarily know how it's going to go, because I feel like if Kaiser gets hot, this is one that could roll on pretty early. But Marion was really convincing for most of that game against Dort.
One thing to keep an eye on. We learned late last week that Kaiser head coach Miles Russ has had some sort of health scare. We're not sure what. He put out a statement on Twitter, on Instagram about it. We are definitely praying for Coach Russ, but this is a situation where you can have one or both of a couple of different outcomes. It can be really positive as your team galvanizes around your head coach going through the health issues, and a little bit of win one for the Gipper action. But also, you can miss that strategic value on the field now that you're one coach down, and the rest of your coaches have to be able to come together, divvy up those responsibilities, plus be able to strategize on the fly against a team like Marion, who, honestly, this is the best Marion team we've seen since they were the championship runners-up several years back.
Yeah, certainly. It feels very well put together, that squad in Marion. It doesn't feel like there's a super big weakness on the team. It's just very well-rounded the way they go about things this year. Really, yeah, and we are really glad that Coach Russ is doing well from what it seems from the update he gave. But yeah, like you said, that can certainly be something to look for in this contest. How does Kaiser respond to that? Football's an emotional game, and when stuff like that happens, it gets that much more emotional, especially on this stage. And our next matchup here, which I like to call government mandated Frontier Chaos, because like this is kind of manufactured, but like we're still getting it. You know what I mean? As you have the 3-seeded Montana Tech ore diggers there in Butte taking on the College of Idaho Yotes, the 8 seed. And you know, like I said, it's a little forced, but I'm not too upset, especially with the surge College of Idaho's had this year and how good they looked. That defense looked against Morningside, facing off against one of the also top defenses in the country in Montana Tech. It's basically going to be which offense can find ways to get points on the board. I don't know the forecast, what it's going to be there. I imagine this time of year that'll certainly play a factor as well. I'm really excited for this one.
I'm going to predict it's going to be cold.
That's probably a safe bet.
Or at the very least, colder than Florida.
That's I mean, cast a wide net, I guess. You know what I mean?
You do what you can, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're not wrong on government mandated Frontier Chaos. And if Montana Tech gets through to the quarterfinals on the back of Frontier teams, it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, both these teams played really close games. College of Idaho's only loss comes at the hands of Montana Tech. Again, it's hard to play a team twice in a season. We saw Montana Tech did not have a problem with that too much against Carroll. Will they be able to stop Caden Young and Riley Byington? Is really going to be the thing for the Montana Tech defense. Can you limit that two-headed monster? Offensively, you've got the one-man wrecking crew of Levi Torgerson. He juggles, he catches passes, he does kickoff and punt return. He breathes fire. I don't know. At this point, I'm willing to believe a lot of things.
He can fly, I hear.
Look, my guy is a one-man wrecking ball. Come back to that. That's a really, really nice option to have. This is going to be another one of those intriguing matchups. Can Montana Tech do it again?
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun one. And another one. Now, this one isn't government mandated because we don't see this one very often, if ever. But, certainly not a far matchup here as Friends takes on Benedictine 4 versus 5. This is a true seeding quarterfinals seeding matchup here. I don't know if I could put into words how excited I am for this game. I am ecstatic to see what comes from this one, especially because it's going to be, the rushing attack of Cavante Baker. It's going to be the rushing attack of Edward Sykes. It's going to be the rushing attack of Nick Cordova versus Jackson Dooley, Xavier Ugorji, and the added efforts of Tanner Zimmerman. Like, very, very fun offensive units going to battle here, paired with some really stout defenses. Now, granted, it hasn't been the focal point of either of these teams this season, but it's going to have to come down to which defense can make the most plays, who can get 3 stops as opposed to 2. Like, it could very well come down to who gets the first stop in the game, because it's going to be a big momentum swing, which is how these offenses produce.
The Battle of the Birds is what I think I'm going to call this one.
Makes sense.
You've got two teams who, like you said, offensive identity is kind of the focal point. Neither team do you really think about their defense as being kind of the main crux of their team in the same way that you do a Granby. Again, can Friends continue to not fumble the football?
Mm-hmm.
That is huge. If they continue to be able to hold on to the rock, it's going to be hard to beat them. This will be the toughest game Benedictine's played all season. They showed that they can get it done in tough situations. Game 1 against Morningside. It's time to be able to do that again. And as a side note, I will point out, Friends #1 in SP Plus. This is the first time that I can remember that a Mid-South team has not been #1 in SP Plus.
Wow. That's Mid-South. Really? Because it'd be what?
Yep.
Lindsey Wilson and...
A lot of times in good seasons, it was Bethel, Tennessee. Was the absolute darling
That's right.
of SP Plus. But Friends has stolen that. If you look at that overall, it's a 1 versus 3 matchup on SP Plus paper, which makes it even more compelling. This is, like you said, the one I am most excited about. You've got just strength on strength. And, look, if Friends can shorten this game, keep the ball out of Dooley's hands, you're going to have a really good shot to move on and get your revenge shot at Grandview.
Yeah, and that also would just be a fantastic matchup. But Benedictine, I mean, they probably want another shot at the Vikings if I had to take a guess. So they might have something to say about that one there. But yeah, I mean, the quarterfinal slate is as good as we've seen it, I feel like. Something about chalk playing out, but like these truly are like the cream of the crop, and we're finally filtering out, who's actually the top team, especially with all the different conferences being represented in the quarterfinals here. Like, it's finally time to stop talking about spreadsheets and numbers, and we got to play football on grass at the end of the day. So, it's gonna be a really good time this weekend, and I'm super excited because we get to talk about it next week, and it's just I love playoffs, man. It's so good. It's all so good. You know who else is just the best, Corey? Just the best ever.
Man, that's got to be our patrons.
Dude, it is. It is our patrons. We love our patrons. You can scan the QR code on your screen there or go to patreon.com/NAIAFBALL to hop in for just $1 a month. Just joining the community, hopping in Discord with us. You can probably still join without Patreon, but you get the extra perks of being more on the inside when you're chatting with us and that sort of thing. Just a wonderful community we've built here. It's been a really fun season, and the best is yet to come, which is crazy to say because I feel like this year's been really exciting. But these people are the people who help make it possible, who support the show, who help us, travel to the national championship and do all that fun stuff, that coverage we're able to provide. And we just from the bottom of our hearts, we just want to thank you guys. So those patrons are DSU Cohn, Roger Meyer, Jeremy Vobble, Fred Christensen, Ace Wellen, Marty Siebel, Kyle Gregory, Tyler Pierce, Justin Hoffman, Steve Speakman, Brian Shake, Julianne Shager, Nate Soapbeer, Stephen Cutler, Julie Lout, Tim Burrow, Nathan Moore, Ryan, Jason Crawford, Todd Nix, Sean Chamberlain, Zach Lance, Casey Wilson, Carol C. Suggs, Derek Lars, Christopher Zwiener, Joey Breckel, Coca Nicholas, Swede Nation, Giovanni Holmes, Donald Lamb, and Brett. Brett's what a great guy Brett is. Thank you to all of our patrons and all of the wonderful people watching the show tonight. Goodness gracious, Corey, we're rolling, man. I'm super pumped for this weekend.
Me and you are now tied in our Discord playoff predictions.
We are.
You said you got 2 wrong. I got 1 wrong each. No.
You got 2 wrong in the first. Oh, am I?
I did. So you're a game ahead of me. Because you had a perfect week last week. Got 2 wrong. I got 1 wrong. Although in my defense, it was Benedictine Campbellsville, and I feel very justified that was a 4-point game.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's not a bad pick with the way that game went for the first half.
Right, could have been a lot worse. Of picks there. I'm shocked that it's still chalk there. I wanted to pick chalk, and I should have gone with my gut. Um, I feel like there's an upset somewhere. At some point, we can't just stay chalk.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it is. Part of me wonders if it's Friends Benedictine. That would be the easiest place to do it. But
True.
you could easily see it in that Grandview game. Um, that could be a good place to have it. You just don't know. At this point, you really do have the best teams left from all season. And Zach is doing my updated standings as we go. Don't know that we're going to have time to get it in tonight, but it's really fun. I would look, hit us up if you're not a patron. It's fine. Just ask me for a Discord and invite link. We'll get you in. We just want people talking about NAI football, and we
Truthfully.
are the sickos who do it. I hate that Sickos Committee stole that from us. They didn't.
Yeah.
We're stealing it from them. But we are
Stolen
the true
valor.
sickos over here. We're the true sickos over here watching NAI football. They do too, so
Yeah.
they can have it. But it's been super fun. Let's see, what do we got comments wise? I see we had a few. Derek Smith
Yep.
gonna try to make it to Wichita. I love that. That's fantastic. Chris Weiner, props to Rogers Marion Knights after lots of us picked against them.
Yeah, look,
Oof.
I was wrong. All right, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Won't happen again. It'll probably happen again, but it's fine.
I'm just psyched at this point that both of the teams that like to produce their own broadcasts and paywall it are on the road. So every game from here on out will be on UEN, and you can watch it.
For free.
Honestly, for free. Best on computer. I was watching during the regular season like 12 games at the same time. So definitely it's not hard on your internet connection, because if I can do 12 games all at the same time, most people probably can. It's pretty easy on your hardware. But from here on out, we get all free games. So looking forward to that. And honestly, looking forward to going down to Fort Worth. Honestly, going over to Fort Worth and seeing who comes out of this, because this is going to be. I'm pretty stoked about whoever gets there at this point. I know that they're going to absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun result. Side note about your internet, I feel like you have like tinfoil on the top of your setup to like help get some extra, reception or something. But it's we make it work. But
We make it work.
yeah, some of these other comments here really quickly. College of Idaho and Montana Tech will be a big defensive game. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy. Benny and Campbellsville was awesome. Props to Betty, they never panicked. That is something, Chris, that's interesting to note, because yeah, I feel like even with Campbellsville up at the half, it didn't feel like the Ravens at any point were like freaking out. They didn't show that there was any panic. They knew what they had to do, and they fixed it, and it's what won them the game.
I mean, that to me, that's one of the benefits of playing out of conference, because
Yeah.
you go back to the first game of the season, you're down against Morningside in the fourth quarter, and you're able to come back and you seal that game, and you have that in the back of your mind. We did this to Morningside. We can do it to Campbellsville.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, wonderful weekend of football all around, and we got another one coming up, Corey. It's going to be wonderful. But I think that's all we got for tonight. So thank you guys for joining us for almost an hour here tonight with that round of coverage, which is wonderful. I could talk about it all day, but we have jobs and food to eat and rest to get and all that other stuff. So we'll spare the details. But until next time, we will see y'all on